Good morning, everyone. Today's Wednesday, June 2nd. It's just past 9 o'clock, and we'll get started with our meeting. Pam Harlan is the commission secretary. Pam, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Waters.
Present.
Commissioner Briscoe.
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Present.
Commissioner Ecker.
Present.
Commissioner Brinkman.
Present.
Commissioner Boatwright.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great. Well, we'll get started here. Last month, our meeting highlighted how the department delivers on its mission statement. And this month, the meeting is going to talk about the three of our department's values: safety, service, and stability. So I'm looking forward to the presentations that we have today. We also are going to have a special guest, State Representative Becky Ruth, who's the chair of the House Transportation Committee, is going to join us here in just a little bit. And we're excited to have her here and talk about the things that have gone on in the last month or so over in the Capitol. So looking forward to that. As you know, today we're continuing with our virtual meeting process. The commissioners are scattered around in their home areas, and our staff is, of course, in Jefferson City, keeping us all connected and making all this work. We have a few helpful hints before we get started for those who may not have participated in this type of meeting. The first one is, if you're not speaking, please mute your microphone. That'll help with the data. We encourage you to use the stage view under the layout option. And this will help you see the presentations and the presenters a little bit better. If you're speaking, we ask that you speak slowly and clearly and loud enough that people can hear you. There may be some hesitation between people talking and hearing, so allow enough time to pass before you move on. And then, as always, remember, nothing's perfect. If you lose your connection, you may try to disconnect and reconnect, or you may have to change from the video conference to the teleconference. And I believe the secretary's provided instructions on that. There's a few things we would normally do in our regular meeting that we won't do because of the virtual setting. One of those is a safety minute at the beginning of the meeting, and then the special recognition of special guests. I want to remind everyone that we do have a public comment period. We try to offer that to all Missourians who'd like to come before the commission. Because of the virtual setting and the way we're doing the meetings, we ask that you register 24 hours in advance of the meeting for the public comments. And public comments, we allow 5 minutes for the comments or 10 minutes per subject. Just a procedural item before we get started regarding our abstentions. Because of commissioners that, because of land ownership or business interests or lawyers that may represent clients or have a relationship with one of the matters we're being discussing, commissioner may have a potential or an actual conflict of interest. So a commissioner will indicate if he or she chooses to abstain or recuse himself from the vote. If the item is divisible by contract, call, or project, or something like that, the commissioner can specify the particular matter and still vote on the remainder of the agenda. All this information is provided to the commission secretary in advance of the meeting in writing, and the secretary will duly indicate the abstention or recusal in the minutes of the meeting. Madam Secretary, have these necessary letters been prepared?
They have.
Great. Well, let's get started. Our first order of business is the consideration of the minutes from our May 5th. Well, sorry about that. The consideration minutes from May 5th, May 4th, and then an amended minutes for the June 5th, 2019 meeting. Is there any additions, corrections to the minutes, or a motion to approve?
I move we approve.
Second.
Been moved and second. We approve the minutes from these meetings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the consideration of the consent agenda. Does any commissioner need to remove anything from the consent agenda for discussion later or abstain from an item? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. We approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Before we move on, as part of our consent agenda, we just approved a resolution for Dennis Heckman, who's going to be retiring at the end of this month. And we want to wish Dennis our best wishes. Dennis is our bridge engineer and has been with I see a picture of the resolution there. That's great. Been with the department for a long time. He's provided steady leadership, and we recently saw a closure in a bridge in Arkansas, which was just a disaster in rerouting traffic and things. And these are the type of issues that Dennis has dealt with for a long time. And when you think about the number of bridges that MoDOT's responsible across the state, it can be a daunting job to have that responsibility on your shoulders. And Dennis, we just want to say thank you to you. And are you online with us this morning?
I am. Up in my office, but I am here.
All right. Well, I see you. There you are. I just wondered if you had any words or thing you wanted to say. We want to congratulate you on your retirement and wish you well, but I wanted to give you a minute for any comments you might have.
Sure you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and it's been a great 28 plus years. 14 of those as a state bridge engineer. And, it's kind of a cliche, but you're only as good as the people you work with and for. And I can honestly say in my entire career at MoDOT, I've had great people all around me all the time. So it's been a great ride. I'm ready to get away from some of those stressful factors like closing a bridge in the middle of the night. But Missouri has always stood out that we never politicized that issue. It was always do what's right for the traveling public, and then we'll let people know why and what happened. So just happy to have been here this long, and I appreciate the commissioner's support. Thank you.
Dennis, thank you for your service to the state. And one of the things I remember when we're in Jeff City, oftentimes you're the guy that picks us up in the morning from the airport and takes us over to the MoDOT building. So
Yeah.
we've had lots of conversations on that trip back and forth. So again, best wishes to you and in your future as you move forward. So,
Thank you.
All right, we'll move now to our
Dennis,
committee board report. I'm sorry.
Dennis, are you still there?
Yeah, Commissioner Brink.
Yes.
Yeah, Dennis, congratulations. It's wonderful to be able to retire at such a young age. And 14 years on bridges, I bet you have a name for each one of them, don't you?
It's a little scary how I know bridge numbers better than I know phone numbers, but hopefully I'll free up some room in my brain to move on to some other challenges now.
Yeah, good for you. Congratulations. And I know your career's not over and you're going to have another career and you're going to have fun.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Patrick, did you have a comment? I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to, on behalf of the whole team here at MoDOT, thank Dennis for his service. It's I look at the state bridge engineer position as truly one of the most impactful and most important roles in the department, and actually one of the ones that carries one of the heaviest burdens. And it's amazing to me, but in MoDOT's entire history, we've only had, I believe, 7 bridge engineers. So directors come and go, but bridge engineers are really important. So we need to have them around. And Dennis, as I understand, is the second longest serving bridge engineer in MoDOT's history. That burden that he has carried, he's carried it well, and has not injected that stress on people around him. He's really been a tremendous leader here. And talking with Ed Hassinger and talking with Dennis and Eric Schrader over the last couple couple weeks. It's one of those areas that in leadership here at MoDOT, we have not had to worry about the issues with Dennis at the helm, and we're going to miss him. We're so appreciative of his service and the duration of it, and just how he conducts himself on a daily basis. He's a good friend. He's gonna have a great retirement, and we wish him all the best. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks for those comments, everybody. We'll move now to our committee and board reports. First up is the audit committee. Commissioner Brickman serves as the chairman of the audit committee. Also serving on the committee are Commissioner Briscoe and Ecker. Bob, do you have a report this morning?
I do, Mr. Chairman. The audit committee met yesterday, and we met with the external auditors from Reuben Brown regarding our fiscal year 21 financial statement audit, and it's required annually by law. And we approved them, and they are off and running. We also approved or reviewed one audit report on construction contract administration design build. We reviewed and approved a year 2021 internal audit plan, which identifies the audits the internal audit staff will be conducting in the next fiscal year. The next audit committee meeting is scheduled for October 28th. And that is the report.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Next will be the legislative committee report. Commissioner Briscoe and I serve as co-chairs. The rest of the commissioners serve on the legislative committee as well. John, have you got a report this morning?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do. It's fairly lengthy, so just ask you to be patient with me here. The 2021 session of the Missouri General Assembly adjourned on May 14. This year was an extraordinary year for the traveling public. The Commission and MoDOT, as the Missouri Legislature, was successful in passing a 12.5-cent per gallon fuel tax increase. This 2.5-cent per gallon increase, phased in over a 5-year time period, will generate additional funding for not only the state but also additional revenues for city and county local road and bridge infrastructure. Here in a few moments, as part of today's agenda, State Representative Becky Ruth, House Transportation Committee Chair and sponsor of the legislation that was passed this year in the House, will provide us with an overview of the different components of the legislation. The department was also successful in working with elected budget officials on the passage of a 2022 fiscal year budget. This budget includes a 2% pay raise for state employees, which will go into effect on January 1, 2022. Again, as a part of today's agenda, Brenda Morris, our Chief Financial Officer, will highlight those important budget items passed this session during her presentation later in the meeting. By the end of this legislative session, 3 different omnibus transportation-related measures passed House and Senate debate. Of note, those bills included memorial road and bridge designations for members of the military, including a new program designated specifically for Medal of Honor recipients, a memorial designation for a portion of Route D in Pemiscot County after former Highway Commissioner Dwayne Mickey. Commissioner Mickey was the grandfather of current Commissioner Dustin Boatwright, and the creation of a commercial motor vehicle towing adjudicative board was established to monitor the fees charged for towing large commercial motor vehicles. Rates charged by towing companies have been a real issue for the commercial motor carrier industry for several years. The creation of this board, housed in the Joint Committee on Transportation Oversight, will include representatives from the Highway Patrol and MoDOT. The board will recommend to the governor and legislative statutory improvements for regulating the industry, plus hear any industry complaints. Some legislative proposals the commission supported didn't get passed this session include prohibiting handheld cell phones when operating a motor vehicle, a primary safety seatbelt law, and a flexible benefit pilot program to attract and retain MoDOT employees. The governor has until July 14th to act on legislation passed. Legislation signed into law by the governor goes into effect August 28, 2021, unless noted otherwise in the legislation. Any bills vetoed by the governor may be considered legislature to be overridden, I think by the legislature to be overridden during their annual veto session in mid-September. In closing, I want to recognize Director McKenna, who spent countless hours working closely with the governor and his staff and members of the legislature. His dedication got next year's budget passed and kept members of both chambers and both parties informed of initiatives affecting Missouri's road users. Finally, I would like to give a big thanks to Jay Wunderlich, Aaron Warner, and Luke Reed in Government Relations for their hard work and dedication in promoting the Commission's legislative agenda for 2021. That includes my lengthy Legislative Committee report, Mr. Chairman.
Well, you did a good job, John. You can take a little break now.
I can't go home yet,
Commissioner Greg Smith serves as the president of the Missouri Transportation Finance Corporation. I serve on the board along with Commissioner Eckert. Greg, have you got a MTFC report today?
I have nothing to report, Mr. Chairman. Our next meeting is scheduled for August of this year, so that's nothing. I'll have a lengthy report in August, hopefully. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Next is the Emperor's Board. Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Brinkman, and Commissioner Boatwright serve on the Emperor's Board. Looks like Commissioner Boatwright, do you have a report this morning?
Yeah, there's nothing to report. Next board meeting is June the 17th, and we look forward to that board meeting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dustin. We'll move now to our director's report. Patrick McKenna is the director of the Missouri Department of Transportation. Patrick, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and those that have joined us remotely. What a past couple months it's been. What a great legislative session. Appreciate the report, and really do appreciate the hard work of the governor, the lieutenant governor, all the members of the General Assembly, the commission, and staff here at MoDOT, all of our stakeholders and partners throughout the state. Really historic legislative session. I know we're going to talk about that later, and I'm so honored to have Representative Ruth here joining us today in just a little bit. But the passage of SB 262, the gas tax, really headlines that legislative accomplishment. And 25 years in the making, and it took everyone working together to get that done. I'm so honored that the department had and was able to play a small role in that, but we certainly appreciate the leadership of all of our policymakers, starting with the governor and all the way down through the legislature to make that happen. On May 17th, all state workers who worked, rearranged their lives and worked remotely during the pandemic returned to their offices. As we are going through and resetting from the emergency phase of the pandemic, we continue to manage the pandemic in a more normalized work environment. Our team's done an amazing job, and just keep in mind also that nearly 80% of all of MoDOT is field-based. Our operations, our construction inspectors, all of those people combined in the field and remotely through administrative tasks to have one of the best construction seasons on record this past year. And I'm so pleased with the efforts of every woman and man at MoDOT that shouldered that burden, that handled it well, that rearranged situations at home, that continued their efforts and kept the transportation system rolling in the state of Missouri. Your efforts are amazing, and we really also appreciate the work that you're doing to adjust out of the emergency phase of the pandemic. You're doing a great job. It's great to see people around the office and to reconnect in ways that these video conferences, while they were critical for us to keep things going, we really all look forward to being in person. Our team is just second to none, in my opinion, and it's been a pleasure. It's been a challenge and a pleasure to work with this great team throughout. For several months now, an internal team here at MoDOT, along with the consultant assistants, has provided and has been developing Missouri's statewide freight and rail plan. As part of the effort, a virtual open house is available for the next 2 weeks to seek input from the public on what they would like to see in a passenger rail system in Missouri. The information is being presented is data that has to be collected and has been collected and contained in the passenger rail economic study that was completed last year, followed by a series of questions asking each participant about their experience on the Missouri passenger rail system and what would enhance the value of passenger rail in Missouri for them. The information gathered will be used to develop the passenger rail portion of the draft plan that's scheduled to be completed in late July. Later this summer, the draft statewide freight and rail plan will be brought to the commission and will kick off a public comment period similar to what we do with the draft statewide transportation improvement plan. We anticipate coming back to seek your approval of the plan in November. Also want to give some good news. Great update here, and also express our deep appreciation to the General Assembly and the governor for providing necessary resources for the Amtrak Missouri River Runner service in the state's budget. We're fortunate to have additional federal COVID relief funds available for Amtrak and from Amtrak. The combination of funding, once approved by the governor, will enable us to pay the to pay the full freight for Amtrak and to fund a second trip per day beginning in July 19th and running through December. That's been a hard road. We adjusted down during the pandemic, and certainly we appreciate everybody's patience through that period of time. And we also did a good job of really trying to get the financial projections and everything in order. Worked with the House Budget Committee and the Senate Appropriations Committee, and what we're looking at is trying to cover the highest travel time, particularly to enable tourism and support community efforts by having that second round trip on the River Runner from mid-July through December. That's what we're authorizing at this time. We're going to reevaluate at the end of the summer into the fall to determine whether or not the ridership and the resources and revenue coming in from that service can be sustained in lower travel times, January to June. If not, we'll go back down to one train a day, and we'll manage the budget according with the desires of the General Assembly. And if so, we'll be able to continue that forward. More to follow on that, but we're very excited to come back and provide this vital service and part of really an intimate part of our transportation network here in Missouri. So again, my hat's off to the General Assembly, the Budget Committee and Appropriations chairs and their committees, and the work of the governor. We really do appreciate that. On April 19th, a vehicle crash occurred in St. Louis on I-70 at the West Florissant Avenue exit. Maintenance supervisor Amir Gayadi came upon the accident and stopped to assist. 3 passengers were ejected from the vehicle and the driver was trapped. When Amir made it to the driver, he saw that she was bleeding heavily and used his belt as a tourniquet. When EMTs arrived on the scene, they told Amir that without his quick action with the tourniquet, she would have died. This is the 3rd straight month that my reports included a story such as this about the selfless actions of our employees in the name of safety. Couldn't be more proud of our workforce. It's the training, the training, and then putting that training into action, and then having the courage to act like Amir did, literally saving a life on his daily routine. It's amazing. Amir, we really appreciate your work. He's being awarded with the Meritorious Safety Award, and it's well deserved. And we couldn't be more proud of you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, brief report, but we've got important things to get on with, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Tom, you're on mute.
I'm having a little trouble this morning. Thank you, Patrick. And Amir, I was thanking you for your quick response and saving a life like that. That's amazing. So we honor you for that and appreciate your work. Are there any other questions or comments for the director?
No, just to echo. I mean, that's Amir, great job. I mean, that's outstanding that you jumped in there and helped these folks that were certainly in need at the time and saving a life. It just goes to show how selfless and caring our MoDOT employees are throughout the state. It's amazing to hear these stories month after month. So thank you very much.
Great.
I appreciate it, sir.
Great. We're always excited and happy to have members of the legislature with us and to attend our meetings. And today we're honored to have Representative Becky Ruth, the chairman of the Transportation Committee, join us. And before turning the floor over to the representative, I'm going to ask Director McKenna to provide a brief introduction. Patrick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So honored to have Representative Becky Ruth with us. The representative represents part of Jefferson County, District 114 in the Missouri House of Representatives. She was first elected to her two-year term in November of 2014. And I can tell you with certainty, Representative Ruth brought with her a passion for transportation, especially for our ports. She's worked tirelessly to improve the condition of ports around the states long before becoming the transportation chair. And what a great thing for the state of Missouri when Representative Ruth was appointed as transportation chair this past session. She got to work right away and built on years of work, learning the issues, questioning us as a department to understand how things worked, why things were in the condition they were in. And she has been tireless in her pursuit of innovations that would turn the corner on this critical issue and need, pressing need in the state of Missouri for investment in transportation. And Representative Ruth is a strong conservative representative, Republican member of the House. No one, and certainly Representative Ruth doesn't take lightly the notion of asking citizens and taxpayers to help fund elements of government. And when it really comes to the cost of doing nothing in transportation, the fact that we haven't had an increase in the motor fuels tax in the last 25 years, that we're getting further and further behind. We're one of the largest transportation systems in the country, and we have one of the lowest gas taxes and lowest revenue per mile under management in the nation. Representative Ruth took that on seriously. She has, as she does with all elements that she deals with her responsibilities. She's a tremendous member of her community, being a retired teacher, and she really considers the impact of public policy on the situation and circumstances of her constituents. Without Representative Ruth's tireless efforts this year, and without her diligent research and coming up with an innovative idea to bring a rebate provision into the discussion, this simply would not have passed. And I just want to personally thank Representative Ruth on behalf of the commission, the entire department, and the entire state of Missouri for her leadership. I'm so pleased to have her with us today, and I'll turn the floor over. Representative Ruth, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, yes, we can.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me this morning. And thank you, Director McKenna, for that wonderful introduction. I asked to speak to you all today more as a big thank you to all of you for the support and the work that you have done for us to get Senate Bill 262 across the finish line. As Director McKenna said, I previously jumped into this role as transportation chair and really started learning as much as I possibly could about this subject. And part of that was attending various meetings throughout the country to see what other states were doing for their transportation needs. I knew Missouri was really far behind the 8 ball. We hadn't really been able to do anything towards our transportation funding in years, 1996 being the last time that the state motor fuel tax had been increased. I was very involved with the bridge bonding proposal, which was great. It gave us a shot in the arm in terms of funding, but we knew that was a one-time shot and it was going to get us over the line a little bit to take care of some of those most critical bridges in our state. But that wasn't long-term. That wasn't something that was sustainable. A lot of people don't like taking money out of GR because we do have our road fund. So I started learning as much as I could and looking at what other states were doing. And I just happened to have been invited to a transportation chair symposium in Atlanta, Georgia by their Southern Legislative Conference. And that was shortly after Missouri had done its bridge bonding program. And it was a round table. We all took turns talking about what we were doing in our state. So I was glad Missouri had something to offer at that time to that conversation. But Senator Grooms from South Carolina talked about their proposal and how they raised their gas tax in a very conservative South Carolina with a supermajority House, a majority Senate, and a Republican governor. And if you don't know, that Republican governor actually vetoed their fuel tax increase, but the next day, that supermajority House and that majority Senate overrode the governor's veto and they passed their fuel tax increase. However, they did theirs with a income tax credit. We knew that would cause some problems here in our state. So for about a year and a half, I kind of toyed with this idea to figure out how could we make this work here in Missouri. And last fall, I met with a group of people and the idea started to catch on. And as we went through, we had a great team that worked on this issue. We fine-tuned the language. We had attorneys look at this, give us legal opinions to make sure we were doing everything that was constitutionally correct in order for the legislature to be able to do this. And at the end of the day, Senate Bill 262, House Bill 1044 were both filed. Speaker of the House basically never referred House Bill 1044, which was my legislation. And we said, okay, we're going with the Senate bill, which was fine. It's amazing what you can get done if you really don't care whose name's on the bill, as long as the subject matter gets passed. So we started off with, all right, let's take this and see where it goes. At the beginning, you always hope that it's going to make it over the finish line, but we knew this was a very, very tough hill to climb. And again, it took an entire team, and much of that team was also that took the time to speak to your state representatives, your senators, and other members of the General Assembly. It took each and every one of us talking about how important this was for our state. And at the end of the day, we ended up with a number that we never thought was possible, with 104 people casting their votes yes to approve this and to move on. A majority of Republicans and Democrats, we had people from all entities on this team. I'm afraid if I start listing them, I'm going to miss someone, but it was a huge coalition between contractors, Chamber of Commerce, unions, agriculture, you all, other state reps who said, yes, we need to do this. It took this entire team to get this done, and at the end of the day, prevailed. We celebrated, and we're still celebrating that we were able to accomplish this so that we can make that much needed improvement in our transportation structure. We do have to be cognizant of now filed. It was filed the first time and rejected because the form was filled out incorrectly, but it is now going through the process. So our fight's not quite over yet, and we're going to have to be cognizant of this because that referendum wants to basically stop this from going into effect. It would go into effect right now, October 1st, but if they are successful in gaining the signatures, it could completely stop this from going into effect and then send it to a vote of the people. There were several amendments. That amendment tried to be added on. It was voted down on the House floor. There was no way that we had time to put that amendment on and send it back over to the Senate to get this done. I'm not sure how successful this referendum will be, but it's something we have to be mindful of, and we have to really get the message out there why this raise in fuel tax is needed. I know it's a tough time for folks right now with gas prices, but gas prices flow time. Phased in will own $6 a month. So that's not a whole lot consistent. We're going to be our roads and bridges, $8 billion. We're going to have an economic activity and being more industry and business come in during transportation here from contractors who are forced to work out. That's where the projects are. And they want to bring their workers home. They want their workers to be able to spend their dollars here and not in another work on their roads and bridges. The other thing that I think the message we need to keep repeating is the fact that over 40%, closer to 50% of the traffic that goes through our state is from out of state. And so this is truly a user fee, and those people are going to be paying their fair share for our roads and bridges that they use. So really my whole purpose was just to talk to you a little bit about this process and to say thank you very much for your support. And I look forward to what's the next thing in transportation that we've got to work on. Great.
Well, thank you. And we know that this was no small feat on your part. The House side of this we know was very difficult, and without your strong leadership and tireless hours, this thing never would have happened. So we greatly appreciate it. You've done a great service to the state by getting this done. Are there any other comments or questions for the representative?
No, Mr. Chairman, just a comment, kind of echo what you said. It was a historic year for transportation in this state, and it would never have happened without you, Representative Ruth, and Senator Schatz. Just keep beating this ball and beating this drum to get it done. We just got to get it across the finish line now. So thank you for your strong leadership. I know you worked many hours on it, and I really, truly appreciate you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Other comments?
Yeah, I'll just say something briefly. You know, people stepping up when they see something that needs to be done is so important. And Representative Ruth, you and Dave Schatz stepping up to the plate on this subject, which is not an easy one to talk about when you talk about raising taxes, is really something that not only the folks on this call, but our future generations. I mean, that's truly what we're doing here. We're investing in our future, just the way that our forefathers invested in us. So just thank you so much for your hard work and finding a way to get this across the finish line. It's quite the feat. So thank you, and look forward to whatever the future holds for you and your endeavors. So thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin. Director McKenna, did you have some comments?
Yeah, I just again echo the thanks, but you know, it's really a case for optimism. You know, we get wrapped up in the cynicism sometimes of politics and policy, and what really are those there for? It's to solve problems and to make the state a better place for its citizens. And Representative Ruth and Senator Schatz and those that reached across the aisle and reached across the Capitol to have an overwhelming bipartisan and bicameral victory for the state of Missouri. It just shows that when people of goodwill and good intentions work together, even through some differences, you really can accomplish anything. And Representative Ruth just was so persistent, and any wall that went up or door that got closed, she just didn't accept it as a final end to things. And it was really a pleasure to watch and be a part of. And you have our deep appreciation, Representative Ruth, and we look forward to working through. You know, we're going to have one of those times in the next year, updating a STIP where we have a lot more yeses than nos in there, with a combination of state and federal resources on the horizon. So we look forward to that, and we're going to, as a department, we are committed to making sure that those investments that are enabled by this action are to the benefit of the state of Missouri. They're going to be done efficiently. We've got a great construction industry, as you mentioned, and they are ready to go. Over the last 10 years, we've completed over 4,300 projects, 96% on time, and about 6% under budget. And that doesn't happen without great contractors and consultants and the public sector all working together and you know, keeping jobs here in Missouri and the contractors and the industry going when we need to make these critical investments in our infrastructure. That's the name of the game, and we look forward to that work ahead of us and working with you to accomplish great things. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bob, go ahead.
I just want to say one other thing. You know, good ideas don't come from one person. They come from everybody putting their heads together, and Missouri has certainly shared a lot of our creative thinking with our innovations that we've made in equipment and so forth. And thank goodness, Representative, you were invited to a party. And it was you that went, the one that could fight for the state and be there and get that idea. But, you know, I'm not sure we would have this passed but for having gone somewhere else and other people sharing their ideas with us. So I highly encourage us as a commission to make sure our people are getting out to the other states and going to conferences like this and sharing what we're doing well and understanding what they're doing well. And thanks for everything you did, Representative.
Thank you.
Great. That's excellent point, Bob. Well, we're gonna move on, and it's kind of neat. Our next subject, we're gonna show what we do with some of that money. As Travis Kastner, our state design engineer, brings our bids for transportation improvements. Travis, are you with us?
Yes, good morning, Chairman Waters, Commissioners, Director McKenna. And that's exactly what I plan to do, is to present to you the results of the May 21st, 2021 bid opening, where MoDOT received 125 bids on 40 calls. And from that bid opening, we recommend the following to you today, and that is to award all calls to the lowest responsive bidder, except for calls C11 in the Kansas City District, F01 in the St. Louis District, and G08 in the Southwest District. We recommend the award of calls C11, F01, and G08 be contingent on receiving additional funding from the partners that are working with us on that job. We expect to go ahead and get the funding with them, but you know, they're public entities, so takes a little bit after they see the bids to get us the proper amount of funding. So we're just asking for a contingent award on those 3 calls and full award on the other calls. So that's our recommendations for you today.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Travis or a motion to approve the recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the bids.
Is there a
Second.
Second.
Great. Been moving second. We approve the recommendation. Just remind everyone that there's a few of these that are based on contingent money coming in. So all in favor of the recommendation, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Travis. Do you have a budget update for us this morning?
Yes, I do. We did not have any focus on bridges in this month's letting, but just to remind folks, the total awards for focus on bridges, the governor's bridge program is 167 bridges for $186.5 million, which is around $1.1 million over budget. These awards today are the result of the end of the state fiscal year 2021. So the total awards for the state fiscal year will end up being $890.6 million, which is under the budgeted amount for those same projects is $951.3 million. So it's kind of, it's been a challenging year with everything that went on, but I appreciate all the hard work of the folks in the districts to get these projects out there for Missourians. So
That's good work, Travis. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, that figure that Travis just gave us is pretty phenomenal because if you remember, or if we remember as commission and working with everyone, there was at one point in time when we didn't know what was going to happen with the federal funding, if the FAST Act was going to be extended, whether we were just going to be doing maintenance just to get by, just to get along. And to look back, and now we've done $890 million worth of projects is exciting. And to think about what the Representative Ruth just talked about and what she was able to accomplish going forward is going to be a really exciting time to invest in our infrastructure in the state of Missouri. And Travis is doing a great job keeping us under budget. So
Lay down. Go lay down.
Great. Any other comments, questions? All right. Thank you, Travis. Appreciate it. Dave Alvers is the state construction and materials engineer. He's going to talk to us today about construction inspections and the administration of contracts. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning. I think we're ready to go. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Waters, Commissioners, and Director McKenna. Thank you for the opportunity to present on how MoDOT performs construction inspection and administration of our construction projects. Next slide. Thanks. I thought I'd start off and talk a little bit about our staffing. So the construction project inspection and our contract administration is performed at the project office. And there are currently 29 project offices. And as you can see on the map here, they're spread out and located throughout the state. The project offices house the resident engineers and the construction inspection staff. And so right now we have 31 resident engineers and 308 in construction inspection staff. The other side of the coin is materials inspection. And that's performed at a lot of different locations: the district office, the central lab, project sites, manufacturing facilities, and also at the project office. And our materials inspection is predominantly done by our assistant district construction materials engineers and our materials inspection staff. And we have 5 assistant district construction materials engineers and 73 materials inspectors. We also use consultants, and we have a budget of about $6 million annually for that. And the consultant inspection is predominantly on job order contracts and painting, bridge painting. We currently have 55 openings in all of these positions that I talked about. And right now, staffing is, as you all know, one of our biggest challenges. Next. To give you an idea of the size of our construction program, in 2020, we completed 540 projects, and we had contractor payments of $984 million. So if we take a snapshot in time, because these things are always changing, as today you awarded new contracts, but if we look back at May 1st, we had 544 projects under construction, totaling $1.6 billion. And we had active construction on 322 projects. So that gives you an idea of a little less than one inspector, per active project. So gives you a feel for that. Next. The primary purpose of our inspection is to make sure that the work performed and all the materials furnished are in accordance with the contract documents. And the contract documents are the contract, our job-specific plans, standard specifications, which is pictured here, and our standard plans. So this is our legal agreement with the contractors, and this is what we expect them to meet. So anytime there's a change, we do a change order, which formally changes the contract. And this often changes the amount of the contract or the completion date. We also have a value engineering process by which the contractors can actually propose a change to improve the quality, save money or time on a project, and the contractor gets 50% of the savings. So this is a real important program for allowing us to introduce innovation and also stay within budget. Next. I thought I'd talk a little bit about our inspection philosophy. A major breakthrough in our inspection philosophy came when we moved from method specs to performance related specs. So prior to 2004, our specs were method based, directing the contractor to use specific materials in specific proportions and specific types of equipment and methods to place materials. So the appeal of this, prescriptive of a process was repeatability results, and it also reduced the risk from avoiding trying something new. So we moved to performance-related specification, which really describes how the finished product should perform over time, rather than providing detailed steps in the process. This process encourages innovation and allows contractors the flexibility to build the job most effectively. The next evolution in our specifications came when we moved toward quality management. In this process, the contractor provides the quality control for the workmanship, and then we provide the quality assurance to really verify the quality control performance. So the contractor submits a quality management plan and for each project, which includes inspecting process, testing, safety, documentation, schedules, and even pre-activity meetings. So the benefits of this process are greater investment from the contractor and the quality of their product. We use this process predominantly on design build and larger design bid build projects. We also used it during COVID to help us out. Next. Really, we need to talk a little bit about safety. That's an important aspect of inspection. Our goal is always zero work zone and worker fatalities. In the past, previously, our leading cause of work zone fatalities was traffic backing up beyond our work zones, which resulted in rear-end collisions. Our inspectors routinely inspected the work zones and made sure that signs and message boards were as far back as the queue occurred, being sure to make sure the signs were relocated to those places. But we also increased the use of law enforcement on our heaviest traveled roadways. And our work zone fatalities actually moved from an average of 25 to 8 to a low of 8. And then we kind of plateaued into that single digit area. Recently, we've seen over the last several years a rise back to double digits in work zone fatalities, and distracted driving and speeding have now become the major contributors. So currently we have 3 work zone fatalities this calendar year. So in addition to what we did in the past, we're looking at a few new strategies using temporary rumble strips and increasing the use of law enforcement. We've shown that in the past that our actions can really have an impact. So we're hopeful in the near future that we can once again get into those single digits and approach zero fatalities in our work zones. Next. Back to contract administration. An important aspect of contract administration is how you document the test results and the inspection. And MoDOT uses a construction software application, which is a licensed product from AASHTO, and it's called AASHTOware Project. And this product can be accessed remotely or in the project office with a laptop or a smartphone. And the inspectors enter their daily inspection and testing information, which results in contractor payments. Another added feature is the contractors can submit their information electronically, and it's automatically incorporated into the system. So this application ensures that all required documentation and testing results are in place before payment is processed. Historical information, also a really important item, is that we can access this information, and we utilize that for our tracker measures. So that's one very important aspect of this, getting access to the data. Currently, there's 28 Department of Transportations across the country that utilize this system. Next. A day in the life of inspector. This is just a slide that I thought I would highlight some of the things that inspectors would do on a daily basis. So our engineers and technicians administer the contract, which includes inspection, testing, documentation, making owner and engineering decisions with the contractor, determining and authorizing payments, and also in addition, they perform wage interviews to ensure that that we're meeting the contract wage requirements. They review our DBE contractors to ensure that they're performing a commercially useful function, and they also inspect erosion control. So that's just some of the things that they would do on a daily basis. Next. One of the things that was highlighted earlier is our relationship with the contractors, and MoDOT and the construction industry have a strong partnership, which we believe leads to higher quality projects and better value. We have open dialogue, and we meet on a regular basis, usually quarterly, with industry through various industry groups. And that gives us, I think the main thing we get out of that is a better understanding of their operation. And this results, and we work together to develop specifications so that our specifications really work hand in hand with their operation. If you have a relationship with someone and you communicate with them regularly, it's a lot easier to resolve issues. And I think this is best illustrated by a record on claims. We've had only 7 claims over the last 10 years and on 5,000 projects, over 5,000 projects, and all of those were resolved at the division level. They did not, escalate to court. Next. I wanted to highlight a couple of items that are innovations in the inspection process. Risk-based inspection is pretty much what it sounds like. You provide a greater frequency of testing and inspection on high-risk items and less effort on low-risk items. And you establish the frequency by a risk assessment of the contract items being built. We use this process on design build and larger design bid build projects, but we also used it during COVID. We used a modified risk-based inspection process for our entire program to make sure that everything was covered. Finally, we're focusing on some technology. Some of that was highlighted previously to the commission, but our intelligent compaction and infrared scanning is an example of an item that really allows immediate feedback to the contractors and to MoDOT. So this technology would scan the roadway and ensure that we have proper coverage and that an asphalt mixture that is consistent. And so that allows us to test the entire roadway. And also it gives immediate feedback to the contractor so they can make a change rather than waiting for test results. So that's just an example of a technology that we've been using. And I think there's a movement, to go more toward technology in our inspection process. Next. This final slide, this is projects information where we closed out our projects in fiscal year 2020. And all these are examples of tracker measures that we use to measure our processes. So as we go through the projects, we can get a pretty good idea globally of how we're doing over time with these tracker measures. But, I think the bigger story, though, is despite the challenges of COVID, we had good results completing the construction program last season. We had payments to contractors of $984 million, and we had only $10 million in carryover. So we used a risk-based process, as I talked about earlier, to do our inspection, and the contractors really stepped up, starting their work early, and showed great flexibility in dealing with the workforce challenges that COVID presented. So this was really a great lesson of what can be accomplished when we're faced with a tough situation. So that is my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address those.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions, comments?
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for your presentation, Dave, and I can only assume that this is absolutely the worst time for your division to have 55 vacant positions.
Yes, yeah. As you know, it's a big concern as we're moving forward. With the opportunities for a bigger program, but we're everybody's making an effort to fill those positions and see what we can do.
Good.
David, I had a question about the work that maintenance crews do, that we do ourselves. How do we do the inspection on that work and follow that process?
So the internal inspection, the internal maintenance that's done by our own forces, we do not do the inspection. The quality control of that is really performed by, our maintenance forces that do the work. If we have a job order contract on a maintenance item, the construction, for example, a mowing contract or a pavement repair contract, the construction group does the inspection on those.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Great. David, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here today. Okay, we'll move on. Brenda Morris is the Chief Financial Officer for MoDOT. Brenda's going to bring the fiscal year 2022 budget to us, and just note this will be an action item today. Brenda? Are you
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Director McKenna. There's my PowerPoint. Very good. Today, I'm seeking your approval for the fiscal year 2022 budget. The budget I'm presenting today was possible because of the hard work of many employees within MoDOT. Financial Services is responsible for compiling our request and supporting it through the legislative process. Department-wide, we received assistance from districts and divisions as we addressed specific questions and information requests throughout session. Governmental Relations provided assistance in communicating with legislators, and we also appreciated the Commission visiting with legislators. Overall, I have some good news to share today. The budget I'm presenting totals almost $3.2 billion, and I plan to highlight some of the specific actions taken by the legislature this year. Next slide. Just a quick reminder about how everything fits together. This puzzle piece graphic shows the three important financial documents the department has. Each serves a different purpose, but they all fit together and represents the department's spending plan. Those three documents include the financial forecast, which was presented to you in February. The forecast is the foundation for the other two documents. The Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, or the STIP, details out the capital and operations plans for the department. Eric Curdy presented the draft to you last month, and will seek your approval next month. And lastly, the budget is what I'm presenting to you today. Next slide. Over the years, I've talked about the reduced flexibility that we have experienced since estimated appropriations were no longer being approved as part of the budget process. Our construction program and operations are greatly impacted by the weather, and being able to respond to the changes in our work because of that is critical. Not having the estimated appropriations has made that challenging. I have some good news to share. The legislature approved with this budget 20% flexibility between our major budget categories. Those categories include administration, safety and operations, program delivery, fleet facilities and information systems, and multimodal operations admin. So what does this mean? I'll give you an example. Let's say we have an extremely harsh winter and need to pay lots of overtime, and we need to purchase additional winter materials. But we've already committed all of our safety and operations funds in those appropriations. We do and have identified some funds in our administration appropriations that we are not going to spend in the current fiscal year. This flexibility allows us to transfer that spending authority to the safety and operations appropriations to meet those spending needs of buying the needed winter materials and paying the necessary overtime. This flexibility is more than we've had in the last couple of years, and it is very welcomed. Next slide. Another good news item that has already been mentioned, this budget includes the funds to provide a 2% cost of living adjustment for all employees beginning January 1st, 2022. In addition, the budget also includes the dollars to implement the Above and Beyond program. This program is a performance incentive to provide a 5% pay increase for the top 10% employees, with the incentive being capped at $2,500 per employee annually. The quarterly performance information gathered through our Engage process will be used to determine which employees are eligible for the incentive. The increase is only for a year and is effective beginning January 1st, 2022. Other good news, we did not experience any reductions in our requested full-time equivalencies. While MoDOT's pay plan requested items received some discussion during session, ultimately the legislature did not include any of those as part of the budget they passed. Next slide. In February, we discussed the Maintenance Asset Management Deficit Program. This budget includes $15 million to implement that program in fiscal year 22. These funds will be distributed to districts which have a deficit asset management goal for minor or low volume classes and lane miles of poor condition in minor and low volume classes. 5 of the 7 districts will receive some of these funds, with 2/3 of the funds going to the 2 northern districts. The districts, through their operating budgets, will use a combination of work by our own forces and contract work to perform pavement improvements, preservation work, and resurfacing work. These resources will help us make some progress on the condition of minor and low volume minor roads. Next slide. Program delivery encompasses those activities associated with the construction program, including planning, designing, bidding, and constructing. The legislature approved an increase of $154.4 million for the program delivery program appropriation. This increase was requested to allow us to spend the $234.8 million of funds available as part of the COVID Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2021, passed last December, and any additional monies that may be made available by the federal government for road and bridge projects. In addition to contractor payments, these funds will be used to pay for the additional costs associated with hiring consultants to design projects and make right-of-way purchases. If additional federal funds are made available, we may have to ask for more spending authority in the future, so we'll continue to monitor that situation. This increase was offset by expenditures already made for the Focus on Bridges program, as well as funding reappropriated for the Governor's Cost Share program. Next slide, please. Way station locations exist around the state to help support the enforcement of motor carrier regulations. MoDOT has a plan to improve certain locations and decommission others that are obsolete and underutilized. Our ultimate goal is to concentrate our limited resources on the sites with the greatest demand for commercial vehicle enforcement. As part of the appropriations request, the department requested a little less than $1 million for weigh station improvements. Specifically, funds to complete 3 projects. First, to install a tire defect detection system, which we have actually received federal funds for this particular project. Secondly, to construct a semi-pitted inspection shed at the weigh station at Northbound Steel on I-55 in Pemiscot County. And lastly, to decommission the weigh station at westbound Caruthersville on Route 412, I-155 in Pemiscot County, and convert it to a truck parking facility. This item was approved. In addition, we received an additional $598,000 to construct a weigh scale inspection building at the eastbound Joplin Weigh Station and to decommission the westbound Joplin Weigh Station and to convert it to a truck parking facility. Next slide, please. Our other modes of transportation also received some increases in funding. First, transit and aviation have received funding from the various COVID relief funding packages passed by Congress. Spending authority for those funds have been added to the budget for fiscal year 2022. As our director already mentioned, since 2010, Missouri has been arrears with its payments to Amtrak. The legislature this year passed an increase of $2.85 million to bring our total spending authority to $10.85 million. The legislature indicated that we could use the appropriation to provide daily passenger rail service with the stipulation that we do not increase the arrearage amount. The Missouri River Runner, the state-supported Amtrak passenger rail service between St. Louis and Kansas City, is currently running 1 train a day and has been doing so for the last year. With the additional funding Amtrak has received through the various COVID relief funding packages, I'm happy to say that Missouri is no longer in debt to Amtrak. This appropriation will ensure that we will provide daily passenger rail service, and we will be maximizing that service with 2 trains a day starting in mid-July. Last, the department received an increase of a little more than $6.3 million for port capital improvements, bringing the total funding for port capital improvements to $11.6 million. Ports are such an economic generator for the state, and these additional investments will have an economic return. These funds will be used for a variety of projects, including slack water harbors, purchasing of land, and grading and pavement replacement. Next slide. We fared well through the legislative budget process this year, and we recommend that the commission approve the budget as presented. And I would be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brenda. Any questions or comments for Brenda before we vote?
I just, Mr. Chairman, I just think this is amazing. I always think of us as being $2.6 billion worth of work, and I'm never ceased to be amazed at how well we stretch our dollars here to keep our roads in such good shape. It kind of makes you excited about thinking of spending some of this new tax dollars and doing a little bit more next year. But great job with the budget, Brenda.
Thank you.
I'm going to vote for it.
Awesome. Awesome. That's what we like to hear.
Patrick, did you have any comments?
Brenda, I just have a comment. You know, it always amazes me, these big numbers and how good a job Brenda and her team always do on everything. And I just want you to know I appreciate you a lot, Brenda, and your team for all your hard work and your dedication.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the team.
Please,
Yeah,
please do.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I'd also like to add, this is another one of those processes that is all year long. As soon as one stops, you start the next budget. This is a sustained effort of Brenda, Todd, and the team in financial services, but it extends to the entire department. You know, accountability and transparency, making sure that we're wise stewards of taxpayer dollars, and that we provide information to elected officials and the public when they question anything we do goes a long way when we're meeting with our elected officials through the budget process. The governor's support, the commission's support, and the General Assembly this year. This is truly one of the best budgets we've seen. And it is in large part due to the very strong efforts of our financial team, our legal team, and the divisions and districts. It truly is a team effort, but it's led very well and very capably by Brenda Morris as our CFO. She's doing a terrific job. And I really do appreciate the efforts of her and the team, as well as the General Assembly and the governor and the commission for the support this year. We're going to have some great work ahead of us this year. We're going to be very busy, and that's exactly the way we like it. So thank you so much.
Great. Well, we have a recommendation from Brenda. I'm going to read that real quick, that we approve the fiscal year 2022 budget totaling $3,193,273,000 as documented in your backup material. Also, that we authorize expenditures in accordance with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission's financial budget, the operating budget policy, and the execution of the documents policy. Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
So
Mr. Chairman, I approve. Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great. It's been moved and second to approve the budget recommendation. All in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, the same sign? Great. Congratulations, Brenda. Thank you for your work on this. And we look forward to continuing as we move forward and take care of this budget now.
All right. Thank you. I will.
All right. Jerica Holtzclaw is the Motor Carrier Service Director, and she's here to talk today about the motor carrier services and provide an update. Jerica, are you with us? Yes.
I am. Can you hear me this morning, Chairman Waters?
Good morning. The floor is yours.
Good morning. I think they're going to pull up my presentation here in a minute, but just to let you know, I also have the Assistant Motor Carrier Services Director with me today. So we're going to tag team this presentation and give you an overview of what we do here in the Motor Carrier Services Division. Next slide, please. So I'm excited to showcase what the employees in the division do. We do have 77 employees that make up the entire division, and we're split in what we call two sides of the house. We have the Compliance Communication Center, where we issue permits, fuel taxes, the registrations, etc. And we also have a Safety and Compliance side of the house, where we employ investigators who ensure safe operations of carriers around the state. The employees are proud of what they do, and together they manage 8 programs, front to back, full programs that we'll touch on today. You know, one of our challenges in the division is really the recruiting and retaining quality employees. With the amount of detail there is to learn about the motor carrier industry, means it does take us significant time to train our employees. So it's very important to us here in the motor carrier division that we retain those quality employees. So I really wanted just to pass on a thank you to the commission for supporting the MoDOT pay plan, as that really does directly affect our recruitment and retention numbers here in the division. Next slide, please. So listed on the screen are those 8 programs that we manage front to back, but the first 4 that are bolded are really that main focus of daily activity and the ones we're going to highlight for you today. Before I touch on those programs, I did want to explain how we're set up here in Missouri. And it's listed there on the bottom of the screen, what we call a one-stop shop. That means the carriers can come to us to get all their paperwork, their registration, pay their fuel taxes, etc. A lot of states are not set up like this. We're one of very few states that are set up with that one-stop shop. And this is really a huge, huge benefit to those Missouri carriers, that they can come to us to get all their paperwork for their business completed in that one stop. And we're proud to offer that to our Missouri carriers. Next slide, please. So the first program I wanted to touch on today is our safety and compliance side, and that does make up about half of our employees. And I did mention we employ investigators on this side. They encourage compliance with the state statutes and federal regulations. One of the things they do is go out and do what we call safety audits for the carriers. That's where they sit down and educate carriers from the start of their brand new business and discuss all the safety aspects of running a business in this industry. So it's really that educational contact. The other things that investigators do is do vehicle inspections and full carrier investigations. I also wanted to point out that our staff in safety and compliance do join other safety sensitive MoDOT employees in plowing snow around the state in the wintertime. Next slide, please. The next program is IFTA, or the International Fuel Tax Agreement. This is an agreement among the United States and Canadian provinces, and really it's to simplify fuel reporting and miles traveled by motor carriers who operate in more than one state. So basically what a driver does if they're based here in Missouri, they keep all their fuel and mileage records and they give all that information to us. And we send all that stuff through a clearinghouse. And that's how we get our money. And our money comes back to us through that clearinghouse based on the miles carriers drive in Missouri and our 17-cent fuel tax. And other states do the same for their carriers. So it's all funneled through a clearinghouse. So for the IFTA program, we help about 7,000 carriers in this program. And the IFTA reporting is typically done on a quarterly basis. So that means we're communicating and working with 7,000 customers every quarter just for this one program. Next slide, please. The next program is registration, or what they call IRP, the International Registration Program. So our team manages vehicle registrations for their commercial motor vehicles. Very similar to what you and I do when we go get our personal passenger vehicles registered with the Department of Revenue, but we do that for commercial motor vehicles. So through this program, carriers apply for an annual registration and license plates in their home state and gain privileges of operating in all the other states and jurisdictions. As you can see on the screen there, it says Missouri ranks 11 out of 59 jurisdictions for the number of power units, which is just the trucks, that are registered in the state. But we do believe our one-stop shop is a big factor in that ranking. You know, we've even heard stories of carriers moving their business to Missouri to take full advantage of that one-stop shop, since we are one of the very few states that offer that. We have more than 115,000 trucks and trailers registered with us. That means our staff's renewing that every single year for every single one of those units, which is a significant volume of work for the staff. I wanted to point out too that recently we've had a 40% increase in the number of new accounts being established with us, which really clearly shows our business has not slowed due to the pandemic. And in fact, we think this is a significant increase. Next slide, please. The last program I wanted to cover today or highlight is our oversized loads program. Our staff issues permits for heavy loads and over dimension loads that are coming through Missouri. On an annual basis, we typically issue more than 150,000 of these permits and over 3,500 super load permits, which are those extra long or heavy loads that come through Missouri. You know, Chairman Waters mentioned early on about Dennis's group over in the Bridge Division and their expertise, and we do rely on them very heavily in this program because we do have their expertise to review our bridges before we issue some of these permits to make sure that they can safely cross our infrastructure due to our aging infrastructure around the state. So we do work very closely with the Bridge Division in this program. So that concludes the 4 programs that we wanted to touch on. Even though we do manage the 8 programs front to back, that's the 4 we wanted to touch on today. But now I'd like to turn it over to the Assistant Motor Carrier Services Director to wrap up the presentation for us today. So Eric?
Next slide, please. Thank you, Jerica. Chairman Waters, Commissioners, Director McKenna. As Jerica said, my name is Eric Bernskitter and I'm the Assistant Motor Carrier Services Director. So when you combine all the collections of the programs that Jerica mentioned, in motor carriers, we average just shy of $200 million that we collect, of which MoDOT gets to keep around 100 million of that, and 94 million is distributed to other states and jurisdictions. We're pretty proud of that $100 million number. We believe this makes Motor Carrier Services a division unique to MoDOT in the fact that we get to deposit so much money into the road fund. Next slide, please. So usually when you're a state agency and you collect fees and taxes, your customer satisfaction scores can suffer. However, our division consistently delivers a very high customer satisfaction rating. As you can see, the team's 5-year average is 96.7%, which is absolutely phenomenal. According to our own MoDOT tracker, if you look back through the years at some of the major companies that were used as benchmarks, such as Apple or Mercedes-Benz or Chick-fil-A, their overall customer satisfaction at its highest reached 88%. Motor Carriers does all of this while fielding over 130,000 phone calls, handling over 120,000 transactions for our total of 47,000 customers annually on all aspects of Motor Carriers. We even had in a recent survey a customer who said, "I've dealt with Motor Carriers since 1990 and have never had a bad experience. The staff has always been well-trained and helpful. Best run government office I know of." So we're pretty proud of comments like that. Next slide, please. In the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, our division helped increase truck weights to get more goods delivered quicker to stores, and our division never fully closed. We only suspended our walk-in or our face-to-face service. So our carriers were always able to get everything they needed from our online system or by phone. During the height of the pandemic, Director McKenna sent an email to our entire division as it related to the Missouri economy and COVID, and I'd like to read that email to you. The I-70 corridor alone carries $60 billion in freight across the middle of Missouri every year. That doesn't even begin to measure the impact this traffic has on the countless businesses and families who depend upon the goods being transported. Your quick response to enable enhanced hours of operation and weight limits helped us lead the nation early during the pandemic and help move essential goods and keep America's food network functioning. Well done. We'd like to thank Director McKenna for those kind words to our division. Next slide, please. So for Motor Carrier Services, what's coming? In one word, technology. Our online system is over 15 years old, so our division is in the process of working with a new vendor to install our new system in early 2022. Again, this is the main way that our customers interact with us to get all of their credentials. The biggest benefits of this new system are that it will be more user-friendly. Our carriers can upload their information directly with their transactions, and they can actually go in and check the status of those transactions as well. We'd like to extend a huge thank you to our Information Systems Division, who we partner with regularly, and they had a special hand in this upgrade. Next slide, please. We'd also like to give a huge thank you to our partners that collaborate with us on a daily basis to make all of this work happen. We work extremely closely with the Highway Patrol, the Missouri Trucking, and the Dump Trucking Association, along with our federal partners and many MoDOT districts and divisions. One division we work really closely with is our Communications Division, specifically on work zone updates, road closure notices, weather notices, our quarterly newsletter to get all this information out to our carriers. Motor Carriers is also going to hold an industry seminar in August. This year, we'll do that virtually, where we would invite all of our carriers and permit agencies to join us virtually if they choose to get an update on a variety of topics related to the motor carrier industry. Next slide, please. So if you look at the overall MoDOT org chart, many people might ask why Motor Carriers falls under safety and operations. Well, whether it's on our safety and compliance side with the education and the initial contact with the carrier, or whether it's permitting oversized overweight loads or issuing credentials to our carriers, our staff has a large safety impact. You'll find the quote that's on the screen on a wall in our Motor Carrier Services office. Our division holds the safety impact in high regard, and we are dedicated to the service that we provide to the Missouri motor carrier industry. And we are extremely proud to protect our carriers' lives and livelihoods. That brings us to the end of our Motor Carrier Services Division update today. We want to thank you for allowing us to showcase our division with you, and Jerica and I would be happy to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Eric. Jerica, we started this process a while back of diving into the different divisions and pieces of MoDOT, and it never ceases to amaze me how involved this enterprise is and the different moving parts. So you highlighted a lot of those today, so I appreciate that. Are there other comments or questions for Eric or Jerica?
I'd just like to thank you for your time and the presentation. I mean, it's great information to have. One question I do have is, how long exactly has Motor Carrier Service been under the MoDOT umbrella? Because I believe at one time it was a separate entity by itself. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. It was in the early 2000s. I believe it was right around 2002 to 2003, somewhere right around those couple years.
Again, appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Eric and Jerica.
Mr. Chairman.
McKenna, do you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to highlight one thing. I tell you, when Eric mentioned the 96.7 customer service satisfaction rating, I want to tell you how they attain that and how jealously they guard that. Even during the pandemic, with essentially similar numbers, when we get to the end of quarters, the call volumes go way up. And like many other aspects of MoDOT, we don't necessarily staff to our peak demand. And so there's a lot of shifting of resources, and we had some very small number, but a small number of customers that looked at call wait times and things like that, which were actually under our averages over the last 3 years, but attributed those to the pandemic. And it really, the data didn't bear that out, but the entire division entered into a training program to cross-train the entire staff to be able to come in and manage the peak demand. They did that during the pandemic. They did that in spite of all the challenges that were going on. And that quick action and the way that they turned the needle on a very small area of concern shows me just how responsive this division is. And I will also mention that when Jerica and Eric took over, I want to say internally is probably one of the biggest grillings I've ever had since I've been at MoDOT. They had technology needs that were well documented, well represented, and long overdue. And let me tell you, they did not take no, or there's not enough money in the budget for any type of reason. When I was questioning them, they were questioning me. And when you're $100 million profit center for the organization, that comes with some clout. And they used it, and they have been upgrading the systems, which makes it easier for our team to respond to our customers. It's all connected, but very much servant leadership being displayed by both Jerica and Eric. They care about their team. They want to do a great job for our customers, and they are. So my thanks to the entire division. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Patrick. Bob, do you have a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was going to save this for final comments, but I want Eric and Jessica to know. My grandpa told me one time, it ain't bragging if you've done it. And you guys are doing it. So keep doing it and keep telling the people that you're doing it. And we're going to be sure to mention it to our cohorts too. So remember, it ain't bragging if you've done it.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll pass that on to the team. Thank you.
And they're doing it. All right. Eric, Jerica, thank you very much. Great presentation. Appreciate you taking the time to put all that together for us. So I have a note from our commission secretary that we need to take care of a correction on the May 5th minutes before we move to our public comments. So Pam, do you want to give us an overview of what we need to do here?
Sure. So on the May 5th minute, I incorrectly noted that Commissioner Boatwright was absent from the vote to close the meeting. This is on page 5 of the May 5th minutes. So I need permission to change that to he was present and he voted aye. And with that correction, if we could approve those minutes again, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Is there a motion to make a correction of the May 5th minutes?
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moving second to correct the May 5th minutes. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Same sign. The motion carries. Thank you, Pam, for catching that and taking care of it. We're going to move now to our public comment period. As you know, we always try to provide time for Missourians to make comments. I believe we have 2 comments. Is that correct, Pam? Have you?
That is correct.
Okay. So for the public comment period, we allow 5 minutes for the public comment or 10 minutes per subject. I have Steve Bubanovich. Steve, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, the Commission, Director McKenna. I'm calling on behalf of the Associated General Contractors of Missouri this morning. And although you guys kind of took the wind out of our sails, we want to make it public that we also want to congratulate Dennis Heckman on his retirement. He's been a true advocate with our industry partners in the bridge sector, and we wish him well. Also, while I have the floor, I have to thank everybody I see over here on the panel. A lot of names that helped push Senate Bill 262 through. I see that Representative Ruth is gone now, but she also knows my thanks personally. I've spent many days in her office over the last couple of years. So with that, that's all we had. Just again, thank you for y'all's leadership, and we look forward to getting 262 going, safer roads, and more jobs for Missourians. So thank you again.
Steve, thank you. We appreciate the partnership with your organization and the help you provided in getting that legislation passed. So, and great to recognize Dennis too as well. That was great. Thank you very much.
Glad to help. Thank you.
Also see that Arnie Dienoff is on the line here with us. Arnie, are you with us today?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, members of the commission. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, State Public Advocate. And the first thing I'd like to start out is it's been about 1.5 years ago when I addressed the commission, and it was in Jefferson City. I had requested the commission start putting online on the commission's website meeting packets, supporting documents, and all the information that you as commissioners get, minus legal issues and personnel issues. It should be about transparency and openness of the Missouri Transportation Commission. It's so very important that you release these documents. And for the last 1.5 years, there's been zero change. Just to give you an aspect from a citizen's aspect, if I request the same meeting packet that you request, it takes about 1.5 months for your general counsel to get back to me and get me the information and supporting documents. That's very concerning in today's technological age, our age of transparency that Director McKenna talks about over and over and over. But yet the commission doesn't want to be transparent with its information. Now, I wanted to talk about the opposite side from the presentation of Representative Becky Ruth and Senator Dave Schatz on Senate Bill 262 and House Bill 1044. These bills were going around the will and the directive of we, the people of Missouri. It's very concerning. You're asking citizens to help fund transportation needs, and I'm about that. But it's about propriety and it's about the will and voice of the people. Instead of asking us from the state legislature for a fair public vote, it was shoved down our throats without a vote of us, the residents. Did we forget just a short 3 years ago, the vote on November 6, 2018 in the defeat of Proposition D? 1,281,143 residents voted no, or 53.6% of the vote. That would have brought in an estimated $500 million of increased revenue. And the director or somebody keeps saying, we haven't had a tax increase since 1996. But that's not true, because we've received more money from the federal government, from Congress, from our state legislature, and from local partners such as St. Charles County.
Arnie?
Yes.
I'm sorry. you've addressed the Senate Bill 262 last month, I believe, and so we need to move on to your next topic, please.
Okay. But the thing is, I just want to bring up, it sounds like lobbyists have won here. Gas prices have gone up in Missouri. The average gas price across Missouri is $2.77 to $2.99. Any new gas tax hurts low income and working families. When will we, the people, be heard? Does our vote even matter, or is it heard? There's lots of doubt. Who controls and runs our state government? Is it the people or the lobbyists and special interests? The rights of the citizens and the right of the vote is what is at stake here. I urge the governor to reject and not sign any tax increase for transportation. Governor Mike Parson, do not sign any bill that would increase our taxes. The people have been squashed like a bug on a highway. Right now, 50% of what every Missourian brings into their household income goes to pay for some sort of tax or fee. I'm in favor of stopping this forced tax, vesting the power and the authority in we the people. There's a Missouri gas tax referendum that will go on the ballot November 8, 2022 ballot by repealing the Senate Bill 262. I ask that Jeremy Cody of Americans for Prosperity continue in this quest of the ballot initiative. As Director Patrick McKenna stated during this meeting today, MoDOT is about accountability and transparency. But in my opinion, there are too many backroom deals and surprise votes over our 6 million Missourians. Our way and delivery of government really needs to change. The vote and the will of the people must be heard loudly. And I would ask that when it comes to taxes or increase of any motor fuel fees, that we take into account the people, the low income people who this bill will drastically hurt. It will hurt working class families across Missouri, and we need to come up with some better mechanism to do it. We've had record breaking income in Missouri this year in terms of income tax, sales tax that have broke the charts over and over for the last 3 years and pre-COVID. MoDOT has been the recipient of a lot of this money, including $154 million from the national federal government that was talked about this meeting in new infrastructure, capital improvement projects, and bridge projects. So I ask that we think about Missourians when it comes to money and not think about special interests or lobbyists. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you for your comments, Arnie. We're going to move now to comments from the commissioners. Typically, we like to provide each commissioner an opportunity to make comments at the end of the meeting. And today I'm going to start with our senior commissioner, Mr. Greg Smith. Greg?
You make me sound real old, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'm not going to keep echoing and talking about stuff, but Dennis Heckman was one of the first guys I met before Pam or after Pam when I come on the commission, and I just want to wish Dennis good luck. I want to thank him for his 28 years of service to MoDOT and wish him good luck in the future. We're sure going to miss him, Dennis. So good luck to you, and stay in touch. Don't forget about us. $890 million in projects. That's great. I remember when we were talking to 325. So that's a great news. One thing that does bother me, and I've been reading this and I kind of follow up on this, is the fatalities in the state. We're at about 351 fatalities this year, up from 334 last year. That's a 5% increase. So that's a real concern, as you out here traveling on these roads. Someday, hopefully, we can get these phones put down where you're talking hands-free and not holding the phone and being disrupted. It's just a very, very concerning to me. But so we just need to keep pushing forward, and maybe we can come up with a law that'll change that. But anyway, again, thank you to Jay and his team, and thank you to Representative Ruth for all of her hard works, and Senator Schatz. We appreciate all their hard work on this deal, and it's been a good meeting. Mr. Chairman, you've ran it right on time. I'm very proud of you, so kudos to you. And that concludes my comments. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Greg. Commissioner Brinkman, we'll go to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like ditto the comments for Dennis. There's nothing like being an old engineer and you're still working and you got these young guys retiring. But I know that, how rewarding it is to be an engineer, and I know Dennis is going to have a great retirement and he's still going to have some fun. Pretty much everything been said, but Mr. Bernketter and Jessica, I think I'm glad that we're doing these presentations, because they kind of off in the corner, and you don't see what wonderful things the people of the state are doing with Becky and all that. And it's just an honor to be a commissioner for this state. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Commissioner Briscoe.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I don't know how much more can be said about Dennis, but he's been great since I've been on the commission. It's been great to know him and to deal with him, and I wish him really well. I want to mention that I was really impressed with the report about the young man Amir. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, but he jumped in and saved someone's life, and that's fantastic that we have employees that do those kind of things, and that's terrific. I thank Brenda Morris for her report and her great service that she and her team do. I'm pleased and happy that we got this 2% increase for pay raise for our employees, but then I was distressed to hear that it's only for a year, and I think that's the craziest damn thing I ever heard of. And then finally, I also want to thank Representative Ruth and Senator Schatz for their great efforts on Senate Bill 262 and getting that through the General Assembly. But I can't help but take this opportunity to say it's just a terrible shame that those two people within the next couple of years will be term limited out. And that's a comment on the fact that we have that term limits bill or law that prevents qualified people who gain some experience and know what they're doing. When they get really well versed on a subject, they're term limited out, and I think that's the worst thing that has ever happened in Missouri. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, John.
Mr. Chairman, if might I comment? We may not have communicated clearly. The 2% pay increase is permanent increase, so that's the equivalent of a cost of living adjustment. That will go into effect in January and will stay. The other piece is a performance pay plan, and that performance pay will be available for 1 year as the performance reward for the previous year's effort. So we're excited about both of those plans, but my apologies if we were a little confusing on that communication.
I misunderstood that.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yep. I think I was in line with John on that one too there for a second. So thank you for clearing that up. Commissioner Eckert, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everything I wanted to say has basically been said, but I think I'm going to repeat it because it needs to be said. Is just great work to Jay and his team and Patrick and Representative Ruth and Senator Schatz on getting 262 across the finish line, and I'm confident that we're going to see great things happen from that in the future. I think we also ought to thank our governor for that, because he was very supportive of that, and I'm sure he's going to sign it, or at least I hope he does. Congratulations to Dennis. Enjoy your retirement. And like someone else said, don't be a stranger, because it was always nice to see your face whenever we needed transportation from either the hotel or whatever. And then the last thing I'd say is, these presentations that we've been getting about updates of things that go on, the thing that I noticed today, and it's been the same in the past, is that whether it was David, Brenda, Jerica, or Eric, they are always upbeat, smiling, happy. You can tell they like their jobs and that they're doing a great job, and that it's rewarding, and it's just encouraging as a commissioner to see these presentations and see how passionate and really concerned that they are about making things good and making things work great and just doing a great job. So with that, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent point, Terry. Thank you. Commissioner Boatwright.
Man, going at the end of all of those comments is tough, but when you look up, I think the perfect definition of a public servant is the MoDOT staff, the MoDOT employees that we have in this state. Time and time again, hearing the stories, getting to see the presentations, just extremely impressive. Thank you very much for everything that you do. Really, really appreciate it. Becky, Representative Ruth, and Senator Schatz, again, thank you for your leadership. And to echo the comments that Commissioner Brinkman made, it is truly an honor to be a part of this commission and a part of this MoDOT family. So thank you for the opportunity. Thanks.
Thanks, Dustin. Yeah, you guys left me a lot to talk about as usual, but what I want to say about Dennis was how impressed I was that AGC took the time to come and participate in the meeting and comment on the work that Dennis has done all these years. So, that speaks a lot right there, that the peers and the industry has recognized his good work over these years. Amir and the life-saving effort, that's wonderful. That's something that you can't be praised enough for, taking action and the right action at the right time. So congratulations on that. I wanted to again mention 55 job openings in the inspection with the inspection folks. There's jobs out there available, so we can use the help there. A $3.2 billion budget kind of weighed on my mind, the responsibility that we have as commissioners to oversee that. And I guess I want to commit, and along with the other commissioners, that we will do the best we can to make sure that money is spent wisely. And the addition of the Senate Bill 626, after 5 years, that's going to be 12.5 cents in addition to our using fee. The only troubling thing about that, and I don't want to be a downer on something that's so exciting and so helpful to us, is I'm not sure that brings us up to the national average of the fuel tax even. So it's a lot of money, and I appreciate the legislature's efforts, but we still got $850 million worth of unfunded projects in this state that we're going to have to take care of. So we have to continue to be wise in the way we spend the money and the way we take care of this budget. And I just, as a shout out to my fellow commissioners, I think we got a great team here to do just that. And working together with you guys and with the MoDOT staff, the great team that Patrick has put together with his leadership, I know that MoDOT's headed for even bigger and better things. So looking forward to continuing that. So with that, it was great news. The passage of the bill is wonderful. And the final shout out goes to Jay Wunderlich, his team, and Patrick for the plan that they laid out and put together, and the work of Representative Ruth and Senator Schatz. We can't, talk enough about that, along with the governor and lieutenant governor. So thank you to everyone. The last couple of months has been trying for the MoDOT staff, and they've done a great job. So, is there any other business to come before the commission? Seeing none, I'll remind everybody that our next meeting will be July 1st, 2021. We'll see you then. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Been moving second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed can continue to watch himself on the screen. Thank you, everybody. It's been a good meeting. I appreciate everybody's patience.
Good job, Tom.
Thank you, guys.